Hey, what is up, my YouTubian subscribers? Scared here to do some explaining. Why am I dropping RWBY? Okay. Now, I'm dropping RWBY mostly because I'm just not having fun with it anymore. That's the end of the day explanation for why this. I just don't have fun with it. I don't think Volume 6 is as bad as Volume 5. I do think it's worse than Volume 4. I think Volume 4 was their best volume by a large margin. But here's my thing. I think Volume 5 and Volume 6 suffer from the same exact problem, and that was them trying to write their story to please their audience. Instead of writing a story and letting the audience decide whether it's good or not, they wrote Volume 5, and the major tone shift between Volume 4 and Volume 5 was their major change. Was them responding to people saying it's too dark, it's too depressing now. That was their major change. With Volume 6, though, it affects the narrative. It's a complete. Every major storyline in Volume 6 was a response to complaints the people have had. Adam's brand was done not because it makes sense in the series. It doesn't make sense. They have done nothing to show that the Faunus are that far oppressed that they literally brand these fucking people like cattle. I mean, I can point to a freaking integrated Atlas having a fucking Faunus as their representative in the Vital Festival. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense that Adam would have a brand on his fucking face. That was stupid. That was them trying to make the Faunus more oppressed and trying to retcon in oppression that was not there or never intended to be there. We then go on to things like Ozma and his backstory. Those are done. That was done because people were saying Ozma is shady. People weren't liking Ozma anymore, so they responded by giving him a shady backstory. And here's the thing, could have been cool. Instead of using Pyrrha, using Raven, using Leonardo, instead of using these already pre-built-in storylines, they created a completely new one. And the problem is, by doing so, they destroyed the ability to tell Salem's backstory in a positive way. Salem's backstory can't be retold. You can't retell a narrative more than once. We already know her backstory now. And the problem is that backstory didn't have an emotional impact on our main cast. And because they didn't have an emotional impact on our main cast, it didn't have an emotional impact on us. Yes, you can say the last 10 seconds of the episode where fucking there's no way to beat her, she's invincible. Yeah, you can say that was an emotional gut punch. The problem is that's the last fucking 10 seconds of a volume, and Salem is the major antagonist of the series. They needed to tell her backstory and give her a backstory that would heavily impact our main characters, and they didn't do that. We then get to Cinder magically surviving because people didn't want her to be dead. Enough people bitched about Cinder dying that they changed. Cinder should have stayed dead. There's no way in the universe of RWBY that she survives what she survived. She is flash frozen from the inside out by Raven, was then tossed off a cliff and hit water. Now, it wasn't terminal velocity, but you don't need terminal velocity to kill someone. If someone lands on their back from 20 feet, that can kill them depending on how much of their back they land on. Like, there's no... The spine is a very, very sensitive part of the body. Surprisingly so for the function it serves. So she should be dead. Neo appearing randomly and having literally no narrative impact, no narrative reason for appearing. Stupid. Very, very stupid. And it was done because the fans wanted Neo back. Maria Calavera was created for the express purpose of being Ruby's Silver Eyes teacher, and that's not the problem. The problem is they don't explain some of the most integral decisions made in the volume. The most integral decision made in the volume, the decision that saved Team RWBY from dying to the apathy. fucking why she chose to follow Team RWBY and not Team Juniper and the rest of the group. Now, I've heard some people say it's because she was trying to get redemption. She wanted to be a hero and this and that. That's never implied. And then we get to stupid things like her. Sorry. I'm irritated. I'm trying to stay calm. We then get to things like the apathy existing for the express purpose of creating a Grim who the Silver Eyes can only defeat. There's no other Grim that, like, the problem is the Grim were such a small threat throughout the series, that they literally needed an explanation for why Team RWBY couldn't just kill the fucking things. So they created the apathy. So stupid. And you see that was all these problems, even little things. There are little minor writing retcons, like them changing the name of the Grim Wyvern to the Grim Raven from Grim Dragon. Those are minor things, but they're done to please a fan base. And here's the thing. My personal belief is you write a good story and people will come and watch it. Write a good script. People will come and view it. It may take some time to build those fan base, which RWBY didn't have that problem. It already had a good fan base size, but people will find quality. We live in a meritocracy. The cream rises above everything else. Like, it's not. That's my main issue, is that they wrote to a fan base who honestly are always changing. Bumblebee being pushed as heavily as it was in this volume. Now that was also a response. Now don't get me wrong, I'm okay with gay and lesbian relationships. It would be stupid and ignorant to say I'm not. No, that's not the problem. The problem is it's done in a ham-fisted way that reminds me of Korra and Asami from Legend of Korra. Now, it's bad when you write to a fan base. Stories written to a fan base never turn out good. When you try to, and don't get me wrong, I've experience where this is me, personal experience. I wrote a fan fiction a long time ago when I was like 13. It was a Pokemon fan fiction where I let the audience decide which Pokemon were captured. That was a dumb decision on my part, because it eventually forced me into making decisions that I didn't want to do. Like, I think one of the Pokemon captured was a Steel type when I really needed a Rock type, or it was a Steel type when I really needed a Fire type, and the fan said capture an Aron or something like that. So I had to come up with a bullshit excuse for why this Steel type was able to beat this Fire type. It just derailed. Or I was constantly bringing back old Pokemon to kind of help because I was putting myself into a corner. You can't please everyone, so don't try. Just write a good story and let the people decide to come and watch it. And they're not doing that. Volume 6 isn't the art of effort, to quote Mediocrity. And yeah, I'm gonna put this in the Discord, so hopefully he watches it. No, it's the art of trying to please the audience. It's the art of audience pleasing. It's the art of fellatiating the fucking audience to the point that none of the major storylines had any flow between one another. There was literally like 3 or 4 storylines, and the only ones that were interconnected were the Jin stuff and the Argus stuff. And yeah, there were some through lines with like Crow drinking, but overall, I mean, they were pretty self-sufficient stories on their own right. So yeah, no, I'm dropping the series. I don't want to be here for when RWBY goes Super Saiyan, her eyes glowing silver, and she one-shot Cinder Fall, because that's the only thing that's left for Cinder to do is just die at Ruby's hands. No, Cinder already had a satisfying death. She made the same mistake multiple times, each time getting closer and closer to actually dying. And then she made the last mistake she ever made, which was trying to fight Raven Bronwyn, a huntress with 10 years as a maiden and 20 plus years as a huntress. Like there was no reason why Cinder should have got out of that freaking situation. None. Anyways, I'm sorry. Just letting you guys know I'm dropping the series. If you still like RWBY, good for you. I just don't anymore. I find every character to be varying degrees of poorly written, except for Weiss. But that's because they haven't fucked her up by going to Atlas yet. With the return of Atlas, I'm sure they're gonna fuck Weiss over some way. Anyway, sorry for swearing. I wanted to love RWBY, and I can't anymore. Like, comment down below. Scourge signing off.